In Lakesh and Veritas with honor, respect, and gratitude. Welcome everyone to our In Lakesh Studio One's Evolutionary Book Club tonight, where we will be discussing the book, The Golden Compass by Philip Pullman. And I welcome our special guest tonight, Shaman Stephanie. Welcome, Shaman Stephanie.
In Lakesh and Veritas, everyone. So good to be here.
In Lakesh and Veritas. So a few announcements before we get started. High Frequency Living offers live streams which focus on high frequency living lifestyle topics like meditation and breath work, wellness and nutrition, of the sun classes and modalities like quantum light property clearing, soul translation, light body movement, and many other high frequency topics. I am Diane of the Sun, owner of In Lakesh Studio One, a franchise of the Sun. We offer quantum light property clearing services, truth and tea, call for the truth card readings, and other services and products. And our highlighted product of tonight is the Of the Sun highly vibrational rose water. And this product is so amazing because not only are roses the highest vibration of nature, but then it's even bumped up more with elevation from low to. So I encourage you to try this out. It is also very helpful when you're working in the heart chakra, which we are for the light body movement this month. So you can get this at ofthesun.com or at inlakeshstudio1.com. So I am going to just spray a little bit here and inform the field with the rose water. So, looking for the truth in your own experience, especially at this time of truth telling. Look for some clarity with a job change or a moving or relationship issue. Book a personal call for the truth divination card reading. This is Truth and Tea service, and you can get some insight into what the truth of your experience is. Our Truth and Tea service is a personal call for the truth divination card reading of 1, 3, or 9 cards, depending on how deep you'd like to go. These cards bring clarity to a situation by clearing confusion, and clearing is healing. So this is available as a remote service, or if you're in the Atlanta area, I'd be happy to meet you at a mutually decided location. So these are the Call for the Truth divination cards. It is a set of 52 cards, and they are beautifully designed by Tavares of the Sun. And Laota of the Sun created these cards as a companion to her book, Call for the Truth. And this book is available on Amazon, or if you'd like an autographed copy, I have them at inlakeshstudio1.com. And if you'd like your own copy or own card deck, that's also available at inlakeshstudio1.com or ofthesun.com. And check us out on Instagram at inlakeshstudio1. And every Friday I do a card reading called Frequency Friday. And today's Frequency Friday was the card Elevation. And when you call for the highest possible vibration, you are really calling for an algorithm that disrupts fear. It is an algorithm in the universe that pulls fear apart. So call for the highest possible vibration to remove the fear and bring yourself into a higher elevation. Wherever you are, you do it 3 times and you will be higher than where you were. So I encourage you to check that out. Join us every Wednesday at noon Eastern for a midday meditation on this Laota of the Sun YouTube channel. And also check out Of the Sun's live stream every Thursday at noon Eastern with Laota and Tavares. They are also discussing the Call for the Truth cards in depth each week, so there's always a pertinent topic. And then each Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern, high frequency living live streams. We have the first of the month is in Lakesh Studio One Evolutionary Book Club. So thank you for joining tonight. And next month will be April 3rd. The book for next month is called Youthing by Sonia Nilsson. And this is a book about ancient rejuvenation practices and the science of longevity. And Sonia will be joining me that night as well. And Sonia is a natural medicine woman, and she also is part of the Light Body movement with Of the Sun. So I encourage you to check us out next month. And during the month of March, the second and third Fridays, the next 2 Fridays, will be the Divine Nation Workshop, which is a group call for the Truth Divination card pull. So if you're interested in learning more about the cards, join us next Friday and the Friday following to get some more information. And then on Friday, the last Friday of the month at 7 p.m. Eastern, we will be discussing Of the Sun's quantum light property clearing services and classes. And this is we're going to be doing this regularly. This was last month was a wonderful discussion. There were 4 of us on the panel. It was Tavares of the Sun and Lauren of the Sun and Tiffany of the Sun. And it was a wonderful discussion. It went way over normal time, but it was so fun. So we knew we needed to do it again. And so every month, the last Friday of every month, we're going to be doing that. So I encourage you to join us again at the end of March on March 27th at 7 p.m. Eastern. And Of the Sun has the ongoing Light Body movement the first 4 Sundays of every month. And join us this Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern as we continue exploring the heart chakra. And this past Sunday brought forth so many areas to consider that affect our heart chakra, many different places. So this membership is a great way to be introduced to and enhance your Of the Sun practices, ideas, modalities, etc. It is only $45 a month for access to all 4 sessions, live and recorded, so you get the recording afterwards, and all materials and meditations. And there's always a lot of good information, like a textbook type information. There's activations and meditations, and you can register at ofthesun.com for that. And also in March, if you're interested in learning another or your first soul translation modality, the next class is on Tuesdays, March 10th, 17th, and 24th at 6 p.m. Eastern Time with Laota of the Sun. And she will be teaching this modality of reclaiming your sovereignty with freedom release. And the only prerequisite for soul translation classes is the Sun calibration class. If you haven't taken it yet, it is offered as a recorded class, and you can contact the office at contact@ofthesun.com for more information. And the link to register for that class is in the description for today's YouTube video. And Tavares will be teaching energetic protection and defense class this month also on Thursdays, March 12th, 19th, and the 26th. And this is a prerequisite class for the next Quantum Light Property Clearing Level 1 class, which will be in April. And the link for that to register is also in the description. If you're looking for some assistance with sun calibration or other of the Sun classes, you can sign up for a 1-hour tutoring session with Lauren of the Sun. And this is available at ofthesun.com. So if you have any questions about any class, you can reach out at contact@ofthesun.com. So that wraps up our announcements. And so I invite you to join me in raising our vibration. Shall we call for the highest possible vibration? Shall we call for the highest possible vibration? Shall we call for the highest possible vibration? Shall we call forth aid and support from all that is? We are one with all that is. It is flowing through us now. We feel the universal life energy of all that is. Shall we call forth aid and support from all that is? We are one with all that is. It is flowing through us now. We feel the universal life energy of all that is. Shall we call forth aid and support from all that is? We are one with all that is. It is flowing through us now. We feel the universal life energy of all that is. Shall we call for the power of the divine feminine to return to our world, bringing forth balance with honor, respect, and gratitude? Shall we call for the power of the divine masculine to return to our world, bringing forth balance with integrity, discipline, and action? Shall we call for the truth? Shall we call to see the truth in all that we see? Shall we call to hear the truth in all that we hear? Shall we have the courage to speak the truth? And shall we invite nothing less than the truth into all of our experiences? All right, I'd like to thank everyone who is joining tonight in the chat. Let's see. Leilian Ari, Serenia MacArthur, Stephanie Singletary, Joey 6, Joey 8, Knox, Stacy, Cecilia. Thank you everyone for joining. And welcome, 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 Stephanie, Shaman Stephanie, to our book club tonight.
So glad to be here. This is such an exciting book to talk about. I one of the things that I really love about it is no matter how old you are, it's entertaining. It's actually a children's book, which so it's great to read to your kids if you have younger kids.
Yes, thank you. And I know we were talking earlier about listening to it in the car when you're taking your kids different places, that might be helpful too. So
Yeah, I listened to it. I got hooked on listening to books in the car when I was driving kids around for many years, and so that's actually the number one way that I consume books.
that's a great way. I know a lot of people do that. I listen to them also, but mostly I like to have the hard copy so I can read. But this book, yes, it is a children's book. It says yearling fantasy, ages 10 and up. So I find it fascinating that it's so appropriate also for adults to read as well, which most kids' books are. I think they're written with kids in mind, but mostly they're for the adults so that adults don't lose interest reading those books to kids too.
Yeah.
So this book was written in 1995, I think, which is like 30 years ago. And when it came out, it was banned by the Catholic Church. And the Catholic Church, I think, didn't like some of the things that were being brought forth in the book, as we'll talk about going forward, like the magisterium, which seemed to be maybe not only the Catholic Church, maybe all the religions, all the churches, but all the heinous things they were doing. And they were doing that at that time. And so this was, I find it interesting that this was brought forward in this way in a children's book where they were taking children and
Mhm.
So I really like the way he brought this forward, and that it was a child who was helping to re- release those children that were taken. So the child and the children have power. They got their power taken away. Some of them had power taken away, but this Lyra, she used her power to help others. And I thought that was
Mhm.
really interesting. Um, at one point, I remember her saying, she said she wants to keep everything the same, but everything is always changing around her. And at the end of that was like, people are taking children. And so she couldn't take that, which none of us can, but we didn't know. I know a lot of us didn't know what was going on, even though sometimes there were little hints. But I think it's really interesting. And I love how she has this is set in a universe similar to ours, but not quite the same. It's a little bit different, because there are the spirit animals, the power animals that they have, which is helping them with their soul. And we do have them as well, not as physical as they show in the book. So I'd like to start with that because I know, Stephanie, you offer a service with spirit animals, power animals, and assisting us, how they assist us with our evolution.
Yeah. So I'm going to begin offering spirit animal connect shamanic spirit animal connection with Of the Sun. That should be up by the end of this month on their website. So you'll be able to book that service. But basically, what it is helping you to be able to connect with a power animal that maybe you have a power animal that's just for the period of time that you are in your life. Other times, people have a power animal that is their power animal throughout this whole lifetime or throughout many lifetimes. It just depends. Sometimes you have little helpers that come in for a period, and then when you're done with that um, time, then you kind of move on to another one. And sometimes you have multiple. There's times that I tune into people and I see multiple animals that are around them to help them, and that's always fun. um, but what we do is we look at what comes forward for you in that moment, and what is the magic that that animal represents. What's their power? What's their essence? And a lot of times, anything about the animal can be significant. Where are they found in nature? What's their habitat? What's their characteristics? And all of those help you to see what that animal can help you with in your own life. So I love it. And I've also found that many times in my own life, I have been able to look at animals as a bridge when I can't seem to find a path forward in humanity, or I feel like I don't know what the next step is, or when I'm grappling with something that it just seems like humans don't have the answer. Sometimes animals come forward and they're very adaptive, so they can show you a path forward. So I love working with animals for sure.
That's really cool. And I know that in the book, it was the animals when the people were children, the animals changed form
Mhm.
often, but once someone became an adult, they had the same animal, like,
Mhm.
throughout the rest of their life. In this book is what they talked
Yeah.
about. But it depended then on where they became, what their nature was as, as the
Mhm.
adult, because kids are always changing and what do they need now. So I think that's kind of cool too. If you have an animal, for a period of time, even as an adult, for a period of time to help you through a situation.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. One of the things that I thought about this book that I think is so, I think is a great way of introducing to kids things like magic and intuition and how spirit can work and move and shift and change for people. It doesn't always look the same for everyone. What works in me may not work in other people. It may show up differently. And I think it also helps us to understand that um, the way that we um, the way that we learn to respect spirit is reflected in so many things around us. That's one of the things that I think came forward in the book over and over and over again is what is the what's a person's behavior toward themselves and what's the person's behavior towards what's around them, and how do they are they seeing the equanimity in other people, are they showing up in seeing equal and being able to value others as themselves.
that's a great point about introducing children. And it's also for us as adults to remember to do that too, to see how are we behaving to ourselves and around all those around us too. And something that stood out for me with Lyra, her resolve was she knew she just needed to do something and she would figure it out. It wasn't like,
Mm.
oh, I don't know. She wasn't waiting for anyone else to do anything for her. I mean, she did need
Mhm.
some help at some point, she couldn't just do it herself. She couldn't get to the north or, and then she needed the help of the bear, and that was, but she was afraid, but she faced her fear. And, she said, oh, he's going to help me. And when people said, oh, don't go, he's not going to help you. That bear is not going to help you. He's, an outcast. And so that also was a theme that came forward. There were a lot of outcasts in this book, and they came together to work together. So that was also something that stood out for me, where they were banding together. So, oh, I see Stephanie fell out. So let's see. I also think it's interesting how she changed her ideas and her thinking. She was so excited to go with who turned out to be her mother, uh, and she didn't realize she was doing the magisterium, and she was the one who was actually taking the children. But she was so excited to go there. Welcome back, Stephanie. I was just bringing up the idea that Lyra was excited to go into the city with her mother and learn
Mhm.
about that. But once she did find out who her mother really was, she left right away. She didn't, one thing about her, she made her decision and she acted appropriately and that she needed to
Well,
do.
that's true.
You know,
Yeah.
she didn't wait. She said, when that thought came, she's like, I got to get out of here. And I could, even though I read the book, I could see her like looking around and, how can I get out of here? And she made her escape. And it
Mhm.
was so interesting that she found the best people, of course, to help her, with the oh, what were they called? It was that Mark Costa and that whole group, they were going to find the kids because
Mhm,
they had many kids that were taken, and
mhm.
so,
Yeah, I
mm,
do think it is interesting. I feel that when we make a decision and when we choose a path, then the universe does show up for us on that path, especially when we start taking action. Um, then then that forward motion is met with support.
yes, for sure, because she certainly was. When she took action, the universe had provided for her. When she needed help with the bear, she got that, even though there were some little things that needed to be taken care of, but for the most part, it was there for her. Yes, the universe is beneficent and it does bring forward what we ask for. And we may not be asking for we might not, well, we may be asking for something and get something different than what we think we've asked for. However, we always get what we ask for. So, um, and there's a comment here. Yes, this book and TV series combo help ground a lot of spiritual concepts and practices, and the characters show the complexity of our light and shadow aspects and the choices to change. For sure. Thank you. And yes, this book was the movie and a TV series, and I did not watch the movie or the TV series. I know some people have, and I know you have, Stephanie. You said you watched the movie.
I watched the movie. Yeah. I watched the movie. I feel like the book has, of course, a lot more detail in it. If they were to make the the movie of the book, it would be hours and hours long. But one of the things that I do feel like uh, I think would be great if you're going to read it to your children, then they can start seeing, imagining these different animals. You can also even ask them, "Hey, what animals do you think are around us? What animals around you?" And like really start getting their imagination going. And I think it would be great. I think it's just a great book to teach a lot of different kinds of principles.
Mhm. Yes, I like the principles of, where she listening to guidance, or listening to the spirit animals, the power animals. That's our guidance in a physical
Mhm.
form, in that way, and discovering who you are by that. I think that really brings forward who we are when we listen to our guidance and trust that we're going in the right direction for us.
Yeah. I another thing what like about the trust that I feel like she embodied a lot is knowing the truth. When when she was in a position of knowing, that is not, correct behavior, that's not where I want to go, um, then she did not let the fear overtake her. She acted. And that's something that I feel like is really good for kids to see, that it's okay to continue to move and act when you know something isn't right or something doesn't feel good to you. Act, like one of like in one in a couple of different places she was running away from people that had, bad intentions. And another place, she was actively working to get like the bear to come with her because she knew that the bear would be a good ally to have on her journey. There's so many different ways that this stuff intertwines with different principles that we're working on in Of the Sun. Um, Especially right now, one of the things that I feel like is kind of energetic protection is this month's, like, one of the classes for this month.
Mhm.
And this is such a big part of the story. Part of the story, they're trying to sever the connection between the the children and their spirit animal. You could basically say their guidance. And they literally are working to energetically sever that connection.
Mhm. And yes, and that was what they were doing, and they were
Mhm.
successful at some point, but she was afraid when she got to see that, when she saw I remember her when she was in that room where she saw everyone's was it their animals in a
Their
jar?
animal. Mhm.
And she was so afraid, but she knew she had to act and do what she needed to do. So she had to let them all out and hope that they would go back to the children. And some didn't work out, but at least she did what was right. And she did it even though she was fearful. She overcame her fear, which I think is so amazing for a child. It's hard for us as adults to overcome our fears. And then, when you see it in a child, it's really inspiring for even adults to say, "Oh, yes, I need to do that as well." And I like your idea of the energetic protection class this month too, because it is so helpful to know how to protect ourselves. And she just knew she was protected. And, so she did her things, and there's a comment about ancestors showed up and, to protect, yes. So
Mhm.
there's all kinds of different things that show up to protect us when we ask, and she was asking for assistance as she was doing
Mhm.
things too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, um and she was always also open to new things. 'Cause most things she didn't know, it was all new to her, and she was like, "Okay, what is this?" And, her inquisitive, and that's child, is the inquisitive nature. "What is this?" Like and her ideas were so cool about how could she incorporate I can't remember his name, but he was in the balloon, and, how can we use that?
Mhm.
Could we use that to help us out? And and then also, of course, the witches that came forward that were the good witches that had
Mhm.
helped someone at one point, and so that was helpful too. There's help everywhere in the universe. The animals, are power animals, and then the other spirits are ancestors and angels, and I understand that the angels come forward in the next book. And in the
Mhm.
movie, I think they're in the movie, and so I'm looking forward to reading the next 2 books as well to get the whole picture of the whole picture of his dark, uh, his dark materials.
Yeah.
So, mhm.
Yeah, the next book, just for people that maybe don't know, but the next book, it talks more about how these worlds um, live side by side.
Mhm.
Um, and so there's many different worlds that are living side by side and how they interact with each other, and how you can, like, it takes you from one world to the next, and they have people that are going back and forth into different worlds.
Sort of like our multi-dimensional world that we're in now.
Yes,
Going
for
back,
sure.
I thought it was
Yeah,
all.
when one of
Go
the
ahead.
things that I thought about when I was in that book, in the second book, was I was thinking about, when we have timeline splits, um, how that can I could definitely see how that could create this same phenomenon that they talk about in the book.
And I think this multi-dimensional timeline split has been maybe going on for some time. It's just been very subtle and not moving quickly. And now it's like accelerated. Boom. We're moving quickly through it.
Yeah.
So one of the other things I liked too was that when the bear, he got um, all of his armor taken away, which was like his spirit that was taken away, his soul. And he did over time decide that he wanted it back and created his own armor. And because that's what they had him doing for his job, that they made him do that. Not making armor, but working with the metal. And so he
Yeah.
decided to do that because he wanted it back. And so this, by helping Lyra, he also got his soul back too, because he was helping not humanity, but the children, because it wasn't necessarily humans, but whatever the people were. So I thought that was fascinating as well. There were many people throughout the book that were touched by Lyra, who really were helped by her and inspired. And then they were inspired to help themselves because they wanted to help her. And so they're like, well, I can do this too. And so
Yeah.
with the bear in particular, I thought was so fascinating that he decided he wanted his soul back. And I don't know that he really understood that at the time, but once he started helping, and he also was on a path where this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm doing. Lyra was afraid for him at some point, and he's like, this is what I do. I'll be there. I'll be there. So I like the continuity of all of the positivity of everyone, even in such turmoil and confusion and not really knowing what was happening. They knew their mission was to help these children and stop that from happening anymore. And so I think that was a good part of their journey.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with what you're saying about him basically getting back his armor, which was in for him, his soul, and um, being able to be liberated and get his freedom in the process of that was really, really cool to understand, which also which also it like is exactly what we're doing in soul translation this month, in calling back our all of our power everywhere that we've given away power, everywhere that we didn't know that we had power siphoned from us, or that people took advantage of us, or whatever it is, right? In the freedom release technique, right?
Yes.
So one of the things that I recognized with all of these different peoples and animals and things like that are banding together to, help everybody. You're right. There was many different layers of people that are freeing themselves from their own enslavement in different ways. that they were, trapped or didn't really feel like they were fully able to be who or what they wanted to be in the book. And it kept like it kept coming up that there's always a way that once you decide that it will come forward. Once you decide and you take action, then you'll be met with that for your freedom.
Yes. Decision is always important. Decision brings clarity, and clarity brings decision because then you can say, oh, I'm going to do this. Um, I thought it was interesting also that she had that truth telling.
Mhm.
I can't remember the name of it, but it was like a little compass, the golden compass,
Right.
and how she thought she needed to give it to her father, and her mother wanted it, thinking it
Mhm.
was going to help her, and it really was just she didn't need it necessarily, Lyra, and her
Mhm.
father had figured a way to use the information without that. S He didn't want the compass, he wanted her, "Just you keep it." And so I thought it was an interesting idea where she was looking for she was using this tool to assist her in learning her skills, you
Mhm.
know, and she probably doesn't need it either. But she needed it to build up her skills so that she could understand who she is. And I haven't read the 3rd book, so I'm not quite sure I know who she is yet, but I guess that comes out in the 3rd book. Um, but it really is a tool, and I think tools are always helpful for us when we like a spirit animal, a power animal is a tool to assist us. The energetic protection has many tools to help us. The soul translation has many tools. Quantum light property clearing is another great tool for us to use. And so I think when we look at it in that way, that we can use some things outside that might be outside of us to help us look inside and grow. I think that's another way to look at some of those things.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I also think I got like these are tools that help you learn how different ways to connect with spirit, different ways to connect with the truth, different ways to be able to see the path forward. And like you were saying, over a period of time, when you start really honing within yourself what that feeling is, then there's not so much need of something outside of you to be able to find it within you. So yeah, exactly. That's a lot of what I was thinking too. I also think that one of the things that the book really talked about in the beginning was talked about how the children that they were taking were children that um, were kind of like in places of, how can I put this? They wouldn't be noticed, or they were out on their own, or like they weren't in a place of being able to know for themselves, i'm I'm in a place of vulnerability. So they were taking advantage of vulnerabilities. And one of the things that I think that we can help our children in like reading the book is you could say to them, hey, like every time that there's something in this book that you feel like, hey, like there's a red flag, warning, whatever, I want you to raise your hand, or I want you to do something. Like, show your kids that they can start acting when they sense that something is not right. And when you're doing that, you're giving your kids the power for them to understand the truth that they feel within their own bodies. You can ask them, where did you feel that first when I was reading this to you? Where did that come up for you in your body? Where's your no? Where's your yes? We talk about this a lot in Of the Sun, because it's most important. That is our guidance. Our yes and our no is everything, right?
Mm-hmm. For sure. That's a great point to, as you're reading it with the children, to ask them how they feel at certain points. And does this seem right to you, or does this seem wrong to you, and where to check it out in their bodies and things? That's a great idea. Thank you for bringing that up. That'll be a good exercise for parents to use as they're moving through this book. There's so many. I mean, I would think for me, when I was reading it, I had a lot of those times where I was like, "Oh, oh, oh, no, 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 this isn't right." But she always knew it wasn't right. But even from the beginning, where she was hiding herself in the library, or in the wardrobe, or whatever she was in, and she heard about them trying to poison who she thought was her uncle at the time, and then she
Mhm.
decided to, come out. She felt it was important. There was, I think, a little conversation about with her and Pan Pantal Pan. I'll just call him Pan, and how he was saying, "Oh no, don't do that because it's too. You might get in trouble." And she's like, "Oh, but I can't stand here and watch something bad happen." So that was like the very first of the book, and that really set the tone where you knew she wasn't allowing anything bad to happen, that she could do something about. And so she did what she could do, and she helped him to uh, to know what was going on. And I thought it was interesting too, because she really, when she did find out that he was her father, she felt like, "Oh, I really have to help him now a lot," because he was in the North, and he was being, he was captured, and in what her understanding was, he was being held captive, when in
Mhm.
reality, it turned out that he wasn't. That, I mean, he was captive up there, but he was doing all of his things because they were all working together in a
Mhm.
little bit different ways, but it was very interesting. He was going on his own, and I'm looking forward to finding more about what dust is also. That magical dust. I'm like, "Okay." So,
Yeah,
yeah. I
that
mean,
dust. So good.
mhm, yes.
Um, Another, like, I think that one of the things that this is bringing forward for me, as we're talking about this and as we're talking about children and things like this, so good that these kind of books are coming out, and that it's set at the right age, you know. um it is, or it, from the time that we're little, we're made wrong in our rightness, in the things that are right for us. And you can also see from the adult's perspective, you're hiding in the wardrobe. Why are you doing that? You're not supposed to do that. But at the same time, it saved a life, you know? And so, how many times are we overriding our kids or speaking over them when they may have something that's really important for them to say? So I feel like staying in the curiosity that the kids have and say like, hey, why is this a big deal to you? What is it that you're feeling? What is it? You know, you're in here for a reason. You didn't just step in here like you came in here on purpose. Why are you in here? You know, um, that's something that I see when I work with my clients. A lot of times, they ask me for help and guidance in their intuition, like when did that get cut off? And a lot of times, even in my own, it started when I was very little, right? One of the first things that I remember with animals, we had a little dog, and the little dog was outside, and it was like on a little chain. It stayed inside most of the time, but it happened to be outside at the time. And it was pulling, wanting to get off the chain. And I could literally hear it in my head say, let me off. I want to go. And so I let it go. Not know, I let it off and let it go. And I didn't know at the time, if I do this, this dog won't come back, right? And so the dog didn't come back. But, and so there was a wrongness that was made because I let the dog go. Okay, so it's kind of like it was high stakes. So it made a big impression because the dog was now gone. But when I look back and when I tune into that situation, I also see that at the time, my sister had a lot of allergies and asthma, and it was causing all sorts of problems. She was having to be on these breathing treatments and all of these different things. And once the dog was gone, we didn't replace the dog on and an indoor dog, you know. And my sister started improving her health. So in this way, you're like, you know, okay, the dog really did know the best thing for me is to leave, but also you didn't see you didn't see this whole picture. So when we look at like how are these events that are unfolding in our lives, from the perspective of how is that right? How is the rightness of our children, the innocence of our children, when they show up in ways that we don't understand? Because there's a lot of things that children were bringing forward in the book that adults didn't understand.
Mhm. Yes. Oh, thanks for sharing that story. That is so interesting because you knew you could hear the dog. The dog knew that it needed to leave, and nobody connected it to your sister. I mean, your
Mhm.
parents didn't connect it to the sister. And
Yeah.
so, but the dog knew, and then you knew. So thank you for bringing this story. What a wonderful story. And yes, a good reminder that we need to really listen to our children and what they're bringing forward with a greater understanding, not just with our limited thinking that, oh, you shouldn't be letting the dog go because the dog is going to not come back. But thank you for sharing that story, Stephanie. And I see that I don't know if you'll be coming back, but I think we'll be wrapping up here. And so we'll just do a couple reminders. Thank you again, everyone, for joining. I am so grateful. This has been a wonderful conversation. And so hope to see you next Friday at our Divine Nation workshop. And our next book club will be April 3rd on Friday night at 7 p.m. with the book You Thing. And welcome back, Stephanie. We're just going to end up here. Thank you for sharing your story. That was
Oh,
really helpful.
yeah.
So, our next book club, You Thing by Sonia Nilsson. And She explores ancient rejuvenation practices and the science of longevity. And so there are many different topics in here. There's a topic about fasting, which is interesting because we did a book, The Mucusless Diet, a few months ago on our book club, and so that was covering fasting as well a little bit. She talks about many different things. Alkalinizing your body is one thing she talks about. So there's many different topics to look forward to in that book. And don't forget, every Wednesday at noon on this channel for midday meditation, and every Thursday at noon for Low and Tavars for their live stream conversations. So thank you again, Stephanie, for joining tonight. It was a great conversation. I look
Yeah,
forward to seeing you again sometime too. And
I would love to.
welcome with the Of the Sun new modalities, the power animal. I'm excited about that and looking forward to that, hopefully by the end of the month. I know I
Thank
do.
you.
I know Laucha has been doing that in the past, and so I'm looking forward to seeing if I have an update, or is mine changed, or is it the same? So,
Mhm.
and you also have another modality that you're bringing forward too.
Yeah, it's soul retrieval.
Okay.
And then I also have a course that it will be made available that is an awakening course that teaches about the medicine wheel.
Oh, okay. That sounds interesting.
Mhm.
So thank you. And thank you everyone who's joined tonight. And we look forward to seeing you next time in Lakesh and Veritas with honor, respect, and gratitude, integrity, discipline, and action.
In Lakesh and Veritas.